Hey everybody, it's Ted with the video of, I don't know, I used to say video of the day, I used to do them every day. I don't do them every day anymore. But anyway, quick video. So today I saw something that I thought was interesting, so I thought I would kind of run through the stages of business. The reason why I wanted to do that is because I saw some threads that were popping up on different Facebook groups and stuff in the last few days. The major question that was asked on one of them was, hey, have any of you guys, taken your business and then gone smaller in size and downsized back down to one truck and just yourself, and how did that go? So I wanted to talk about why someone would do that, why they think it's a good idea, or whether it is a good idea, and what would cause somebody to get to that point where they didn't want to grow anymore and they want to go backwards. So I'll talk about this and see kind of quickly first, what's the development of a normal business to get different sizes and stuff like that. So there's an axiom of business which I know to be true. As far as in my experience, I haven't seen it not to be true, so I'm going to assume that it is because I haven't been able to disprove it yet. And the theory goes like this, that every time your business triples in size, it has to be rebuilt from the ground up, like how you do everything. So, a one truck operation runs a certain way, 3 trucks runs a completely different way, 10 trucks runs a completely different way, 30 trucks, that, etc. So let's just kind of run through what it sort of looks like for most of us who ever started a business, kind of run through this spectrum. And sometimes we don't get all the way to the end of the spectrum, but this is what happens. So typically we start off with just doing some side jobs. We're kind of like a stage 1 business, you just kind of take some clients on here and there, take on a job or two here and there, maybe not even a couple times a year, once a month, something like that. You do a side job and you have a side job, okay? Then at some point you decide, well, the side jobs are going well, so why don't we move up to the next stage and start a business with just myself. I'll quit my other job and do this full time, and I'll just have a one truck business. And then after you do that for however long, then you decide I need some help, get some employees, I'll figure out how to grow something, and maybe it's getting too big, or maybe you want to, it's just too busy and you can't handle it anymore, so I hire some employees, and a little while later you have, like, say, 3 trucks. Then if you do that for a little while, then you grow up and you have like a 10 truck business and that. So as we talked about, we kind of run up through, and then we get to like a 25 truck business up here. Now there's like 50,000 HVAC companies in North America. As far as last I was able to count, that's kind of a moving target. Could be 60,000, could be 90,000, but there's a bunch. But there's probably about 100 or so, or not very many, that are way up here in this stratosphere of having, like 25 trucks, 50 employees, or 100 employees or something. There aren't that many of those up all the way up there. So the things that work for up there don't work for down here, and vice versa. The things that work down here don't work up there. And here's what's the difference between each of the stages. There's got to be certain things that have to happen in every single business. And it's going to be things like, how do you answer your phones? Who runs the calls? How do you run them? Who does sales? How do you sell stuff? Who administrates the business? Who figures out the books and the accounting and stuff like that? Who does the installs? Is there training? Are we doing a training program? Who does marketing? Those kind of things happen in all these businesses. But so for example, when you're doing side jobs, hey, the phone rings, you just answer your phone. So you pick it up and no big deal. And then you run your own calls, you do everything yourself, everything is here. When you get to one truck, you're probably doing the same things. Phone's ringing, however many times a day, whether it's a telemarketer, whether it's a customer, no matter what happens, you're ringing your cell phone, it's in your pocket, you're still running your own calls and doing your sales and stuff. But sometimes you're starting to transfer some of that off. Like, okay, maybe you have a spouse, or you've hired someone to do the admin, and you're not doing the accounting, anything yourself anymore. That kind of thing. Here's the thing. For each stage, as you're going from this stage to that stage, or each one up, you have to learn the skills that it's going to take to change all these items so that you get them handled in a new way so that you're ready for the next stage. And it's not enough to be the company that you are. You have to be the company that you're going to be. So to move up to the next level, you got to work where you are and get the skills that are the next level up. Then you can move forward. We see it a lot of times in confusion. Why does somebody want to move backwards? Because they get stuck up in here somewhere. They got 3, 4 trucks, whatever. They're getting stuck on some of these items. Like, for example, they're trying to run a 3 or 4 truck company, but they have holes in the processes here. Maybe they're still trying to answer their own phones. Maybe they don't have a good sales process. They're selling all the jobs and they're sending the guys out on the jobs, but they're still the only one selling anything. Maybe they're the only one who runs emergency calls and all they have is an install crew. There's all kinds of holes in their system. They're trying to grow, but they can't because they have holes in their system. So then it becomes easier to go backwards and say, you know, it was easier when I didn't have all these headaches and I just did things down this way. So really the trick is to fix the holes and grow rather than go backwards. And the reason why is because hanging out down here in these lower two things now, this is fairly safe because you have a job. And if it doesn't work out, if the business isn't going well, you still have a job. This is pretty dangerous because if things aren't going well, if you can't work for some reason, if you get hurt, fall off a ladder, break your leg, you get sick, you have to go, you know, your mom gets ill, you have to go to another state for a little while, something happens to one of your kids or something, and you can't work for a little while, if you get the flu, whatever, for whatever reason, or you want to go on vacation, for any reason you don't go to work for a while, this business completely closes down and you lose everything. So this is a pretty dangerous place to hang out in, although it can feel comfortable because you just handle all this stuff yourself. But once you get the processes down, then it's actually pretty comfortable to be hanging out in these upper levels. And every time you move up a level, you handle all the same things, but with a little more sophistication. Okay, so by the time you're, you know, way up here, you're going to have an entire staff of people doing admin, not just one person. You have an entire process of training people and hiring people in that, because that becomes the other issue that people run into is employees, right? When you're hanging out in these lower levels, you know, down here, you can find an employee or two and just get a little bit lucky. You know, hey, I found a guy, he has 5 years experience, he's pretty good, he doesn't like his other job, he wants to come work for me. Well, that's great, but I can't rely on finding 72 of those guys. You know, if you're trying to be way up here, if you want to be a big bad company up here, you know, the big bad Leroy Brown of the baddest man in the whole damn town, you want to be the company up there, you're going to have a way to develop people, and that's going to mean a training program and a hiring program where you build that skill set for your folks on your own, because you're not going to be able to rely on the fact that you're going to get lucky enough to keep attracting a guy every time you need a new one to add another truck to your business because you're growing. So really a couple things that are going to be important to know in how you handle this stuff. If you're trying to move from these lower levels towards the upper levels, for each level you move up, you have to learn the skills the next level has and then get those up. They tend to happen in 3 areas. So if I put these together, if I look at this big list here, it's really 3 areas. It's really, the first is knowing my numbers, which is like my admin stuff, my sales stuff, how much I sell stuff for, how much I account for it for, and those kinds of things, and to some extent the marketing piece. But that's a separate issue. But really the numbers, the second thing is the sales. How do I handle my phones, my sales, and that kind of thing? And then, of course, my marketing, which marketing I kind of throw into the training area also, because I have to attract good employees, I have to attract customers, I have to become a marketer, become good at that. And frankly, as you move up here, these guys up here, the owners, they're not doing field work anymore. What they're doing most of the time is running a business. They have become completely switched their skill set from knowing how to change out motors and contactors and compressors and stuff. And their skill set is now, how do I recruit people? How do I train them? How do I show them my vision so I can recruit them? How do I show my vision to the marketplace so that the marketplace knows what I want, knows what I am, and knows if they want me? Those kinds of skills are a completely different skill set than what you were doing when you were running side jobs in one truck. So that's really the reasons why you would go up and down the scale here. Now, there's nothing wrong with going backwards other than the fact that my big warning is you don't want to hang out in the one truck business because it's so dangerous for your family. Because again, if anything happens, you're in trouble and you have no resources and ways to make that pay off. When you get these businesses running up in this range from 3 on up, generally speaking, if something happens to you personally, then you have resources, people you can lean on, folks in your business, in your organization should be able to step up and take care of that. How do I know that? Because it happened to me, okay? My daughter is 17, and so 17 years ago, when she was born, We had an entire quarter where she was in the ICU for 143 days, I think it was. But a lot of days, like 4 months. And so for that 4 month period, I didn't come to work every day. I couldn't, because we were in a hospital in another state. They had to fly her to another state. It was really, she's fine now, but there was a whole 4 month period where I would have lost everything within a couple of weeks. But fortunately, we had a business that had people handling all the stuff. There was people selling stuff, there was people taking my calls, I had people administrating all my stuff. The business ran without me, and that is really the key. So I get the frustration when you're stuck up here and you don't have these things in place properly. That's what makes somebody want to go backwards, because it is easier to be down here if you don't have it in place. But if you get up here and you have it in place, then your life becomes really, really awesome. So that is really the lesson, is to get those skill sets you don't have, move those forward. And it's not about being a better technician. This is not a contest anymore about who is the super tech. The contest is who is willing to learn the things you don't know about how to run a business, because you could bring in an MBA or someone who's a business expert who knows these things that can't fix motors and compressors and contactors and things, and they could probably run the business up faster, more than most former technicians could. And the reason why is because their mindset is different. They're not thinking about technicians. They're like, well, why would I need to be a tech? I hire a bunch of those guys, you know. I hire one really good one to run my training program and train guys that don't know what they're doing. And after that, I build a whole bunch of technicians. So that's really the key. And that's actually, believe it or not, the advantage you might have if you are an awesome tech, is you could probably be the trainer for your business and run that very well. But that is going to be the key, is to start focusing your time and your brain power and your bandwidth on that piece that's missing. And it's usually people. Can't find enough people, and it's usually not running your numbers and sales properly over here. So that's the tip of the day, and we'll talk soon. Oh, and by the way, Epstein didn't kill himself.